So you got a brand new iPhone 10 or a brand new iPhone 8, congratulations regardless, and you need a case. Maybe you've heard of Spigen. I've been using a gaggle of Spigen cases over the last month, and I'm going to help you choose the right case for you. Next few minutes, I'm going to tell you my top picks for normal everyday Spigen cases, clear Spigen cases, thin cases, as well as tough cases. Now, one of the questions I wanted to answer myself for this video was, is a $35 tough armor as good as, a ripoff at $15 or a ripoff at $8? So I found a couple of different cheaper alternatives to the Spigen cases, and I'll show you the differences between the build quality, and it is actually quite noticeable.
Real usage, real reviews. Mobile Reviews A.ca.
At Mobile Reviews A, Monty and I base all our reviews on actual usage. Did you just clock out of this review? Like, what's up, bud? When it comes to cases, we try to use them all, even if the cases don't match our personality or matches Monty's personality. Now, having reviewed cases for several years now, it's actually been interesting to see how cases change or don't change over the years, as well as, being able to watch materials age. This hybrid armor was from about 2 years ago, and the clear TPU is a little rough looking. With this new batch of Spigen cases, they've actually included instructions on how to keep your TPU clean with alcohol wipes. I think they've upgraded the materials in their products, which is kind of cool. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you'll know that I am very appreciative of companies that actually make the effort to make their products better over time instead of just constantly rehashing stuff, which Spigen sometimes does as well. But the TPU is much better now. For a normal case I would use every day, I would go with the Spigen Neo Hybrid and the Neo Hybrid Herringbone on the iPhone 8. Yes, there is a difference between the iPhone 8 version and the iPhone 10 version. The normal Neo Hybrid has less of the soft polycarbonate frame, so it doesn't handle as well. The extra piece on the Herringbone version sits in your palm incredibly well. The texture of the Herringbone actually is surprisingly very noticeable between the old Neo Hybrid and this new Herringbone Hybrid, Neo Hybrid. I'll add that the certain colors won't have soft rubber coating on the polycarbonate, so do check with Spigen customer service to make sure that the color combination that you have has that coating. Because I know lighter versions will not. I don't have any issues accessing my iPhone in these Neo Hybrids, and I'd be comfortable having my iPhone take accidental tumble in the case. The Neo Hybrids are drop-rated military-grade drop protection, though Spigen's interpretation of that drop rating is actually only 4 feet, which is the bare minimum. And when it comes to Neo Hybrids, there are a lot of companies that try to rip off the general design of the Spigen. I don't know if Spigen was the first to come out with the TPU polycarbonate, probably not, but they're the ones who spent the most time, I think, making the products better, we'll say, because I've got here a case that has a polycarbonate frame with the TPU sleeve, and I can definitely tell you that the TPU sleeve on the Spigen cases is much thicker, which means that it will handle a drop better. The next normal day-to-day case that I'd go with would be this hybrid armor. Now, the hybrid armor only exists for the iPhone 10 and not the 8, though the iPhone 7 version was one of my go-to cases for a while. The iPhone 7 version will work with the iPhone 8. Now, Spigen has updated the hybrid armor for the iPhone 10, and despite my initial thought of it being too bulky, I've actually grown to like it. I've been trying to figure out why I like this case, and it might be because it's a slightly different design. It's kind of the same reason why I like the iPhone 10. It's different than what we've seen for the last 3 years. The hybrid armor is different in the sense that it has a lot of different textures on the case. The corners of the TPU sleeve has a hatching to it, which helps it stay in your palm better, and the bottom half of the case has these longer indents, which helps with picking up the case off a flat surface. The polycarbonate back is raised as well, so it reduces the scratching that might incur. One of the small things that I really noticed was that the polycarbonate frame wraps around the right area, kind of in the middle of the iPhone, where your fingers are going to be spending a lot of time when you're using your device, which is kind of awesome in a sense. Now, I do like both the Neo Hybrid and the hybrid armor better than the rugged armor, which is basically just a thick TPU sleeve. Now, the iPhone 7 and 8 versions are the same, but with the iPhone 10 version, Spigen kept the same carbon fiber accent on the back. Now, the tall camera of the iPhone 10 looks really awkward on the back of the rugged armor, and I'm not sure what else they could have done because other companies have expanded the carbon fiber accent to coincide with the tallness of the camera lens, and it looks equally as ridiculous. I will note that the rugged armor TPU has a better texture than the TPU on the pure matte black liquid air, which is one of the cases I'll talk about in a few minutes. Now, I am a little torn with the rugged armor because it handles better when there's a bit more humidity in the air. My house right now, it's sitting at about 50% humidity, so my hands, I guess, are moist enough that the texture of the rugged armor feels quite nice, but the moment I go outside, the texture of the rugged armor feels like a wet bar of soap will say. It doesn't handle quite as well. So that's kind of the reason why I'm not fully, gung-ho about it, not fully excited about the rugged armor. So here's a pretty interesting product comparison. This is a case, I won't say the company, but this case costs more than the rugged armor, and I found the equivalent one on AliExpress for about $3. And I can tell you the fact that the company selling this one didn't spend any effort designing this case. They just bought it and they're just reselling it. Now this is pretty frustrating for me because these cases themselves don't cost that much. Evidently, I could buy this case from AliExpress for $30 or $3 and they're reselling it for 30. And so, at least Spigen takes the effort to have a factory produce their products with their own logos as well as their own slightly different design cues, because this thing, this company's selling it for like $30 and I definitely know it costs $3, and it doesn't. They have the ultimate iPhone 8 experience, iPhone 8. That's the engraving on the inside of this case. That's that. Onto Spigen's clear cases. Now with clear cases, my go-to again is the Neo Hybrid, as the soft rubber coated polycarbonate bumper improves the handling of your iPhone. Again, that only works if you get the darker colored cases. Now if you need a completely clear case, I would actually go with the crystal shell. Now I will say that Spigen has some of the most confusing product name. Hey, come on, pay attention. Most confusing product names ever. For clear cases anyways. You've got the Crystal Hybrid, the Crystal Hybrid Glitter, the Neo Hybrid Crystal, Ultra Hybrid S, Crystal Shell, and Rugged Crystal. Basically, anytime that there's an S at the end of the product, it means there's a kickstand version. Now, out of this group of clear cases, the next differentiating factor would be the Crystal Shell and Rugged Shell Crystal having extra protection in the corners of the cases. The only difference between these two cases is that the Crystal Shell has a polycarbonate back and the Rugged Crystal is just a TPU sleeve. Now both cases have the extra large corners, which I like because it helps with the handling of the iPhones. Now I do prefer the crystal shell because of the rigidity of the polycarbonate back, as it provides the case with better face first drop protection in my opinion. Why? Because the stiffer the case, the less chance the iPhone's going to pop out and the results is a smashed screen. Now the next group of clear cases basically has anything with the name hybrid in it. 2 out of 3 hybrid cases are PC TPU sleeve combinations. But here's where the naming of the cases gets even more confusing. Now I said basically anytime you have a clear case with the S version, it means that there's a kickstand to the product. I have one somewhere. Yeah, S clear has a kickstand. Fair enough. But here's the thing, the Crystal Hybrid is a Neo Hybrid with a kickstand. So if you like the Neo Hybrid but you want the kickstand functionality, you get the Crystal Hybrid. Are you confused yet? But here's the thing that gets even sillier, we'll see. Not all Ultra Hybrids, which are all these clear cases, are the same. There is this Ultra Hybrid Matte Black, which has a solid edge or a solid bumper, which isn't clear, so it's kind of not a transparent case, kind of is. So it feels very different than the normal TPU edges of the Ultra Hybrids. Would I get it? No, because the material is very slick, but if you want your white iPhone to have a bit of a contrast, then maybe consider getting it. When it comes to handling, as I said before, I generally prefer the Crystal Shell and Rugged Armor over the Hybrids because of the corners. The darker Neo Hybrids will offer similar handling because of the soft rubber coated frames. Now the last thing I will say about this clear cases is that the Crystal Shell and Rugged Armor will wear better over the normal Hybrids because there is no polycarbonate frame to scuff over when you accidentally drop it. If you're planning on getting a Spigen case or any type of iPhone case, and you've been watching my videos for a while to figure out which one to get, considering getting it through my links, I get a small commission that helps me do more videos in the future. Spigen did send me all these cases to review, which is pretty awesome of them. So kudos to them for, being willing to put their name out with a reviewer who just tells it like it is. Now onto tough cases, and from my perspective, there's only one tough case in Spigen's selection, and that would be the Tough Armor. Now the only reason why I say the Tough Armor is the toughest case is because it's physically more substantial than other cases. I don't have a Slim Armor for the iPhone 8s or the 10s, but here's a comparison of a Slim Armor for a different device. Between the Slim Armor and the Tough Armor, it's just not as thick as the Tough Armor, so it's just not going to offer as much drop protection. I've talked enough about the Tough Armor over the years, And basically, it hasn't really changed. So if you need more information, do check out those review videos on this decent case. As I mentioned in my best cases for the iPhone X, if you really don't know what case to get, just go with the Spigen Tough Armor. At $35, it won't really break the bank, and you know you'll be getting a decent case that will survive basically anything you decide to do to it on a day-to-day basis. Now here's where the naming conventions get a little murkier. Again, the Tough Armor now comes with a kickstand that's built into the case for the iPhone X version, but if you want the same functionality on the iPhone 8, you have to get the Tough Armor too. God, how cryptic are these case models? So on to the product quality comparison for the Tough Armors. $35 Tough Armor, you've got an $8 Kokomi Paladin, I think is what this case is called, as well as a $15 Snug case. Every one of these products comes in two pieces. You've got a polycarbonate back and a TPU sleeve, and I'm gonna talk about the TPU sleeves first. Now, on the cheapest case, the TPU sleeve looks kind of dirty. I think that's the only way I can describe it, as, you know, there's white and actually feels very slick. The TPU on the Spigen cases has a bit more texture to it. The TPU on the Snug and Kokomi Paladin seem to wear quicker, as you can, you know, easily scratch it with your finger and it will leave a mark, whereas the Spigen case kind of hides that mark a little better. Between the Kokomi and the Snug case, well, the Kokomi one is just a sink for these tiny little scratches, and this is gonna look pretty awful on a day-to-day basis. Now, the inside of the TPU of these three cases is quite different. The Spigen TPU, again, doesn't look dirty. And the other two products do look dirty, and it's, you know, it's kind of that white, I don't know, film that just starts to accumulate over the TPU over time. When it comes to actually molding the TPU, Spigen does a better job, as you can barely see where the TPU pieces join together, which is something I can't say for the other two products, as it's very evident where the TPU is injected as well as where they meet. When it comes to the polycarbonate of these products, it's quite similar in terms of thickness. Only difference that I've noticed is that the Spigen Tough Armor's back has coating over most of the polycarbonate back, whereas in the other ones, they just have it on the back, which doesn't really make much of a difference when it comes to general handling. As an added bonus, the Kokomi Paladin has this awesome half-torn sticker on the back, on the inside of it. For the TPU on the Snug case, I think somebody actually went and etched in this phrase, because it doesn't look like it's been machined in. That seems very, very, well, time consuming, we'll say. When it comes to protection, I don't imagine any of these cases performing worse than the Spigen Tough Armor. Why? Because it's, again, just TPU. As you can see, I'm very comfortable dropping my iPhone 8 from 4 feet in this $8 case. One of the things I really don't understand with the Kokomi Paladin is that they try to make it look like fabric, like there looks like the polycarbonate and the TPU, they're stitches, and it just looks kind of funny. Now, with all that being said, would I spend the extra $20 and get the Tough Armor? I definitely would. Why? Because everything fits a bit better, the quality of the product is a little bit better, and you know, you spend so much time on your iPhones that why don't you spend a bit more money and get something that you know your eyes won't twitch when you stare at it every single day. Like if I was to use a Snug case, and the TPU would just drive me bananas. Now onto thin cases, which my go-to case in this scenario selection would be the Liquid Air, followed by the Thin Fit, and then the Liquid Crystals. Now these are personal preferences. I do like the Liquid Air's feel, though it doesn't handle as well as other TPU cases, as the TPU does feel softer and doesn't quite sit well in my hand. It's actually the same issue I have with the Rugged Armor. Feels great in a more humid climate, and it doesn't work quite so well when it's very dry. I will note that the TPU on these Spigen cases feels softer than the pure clear TPU cases. It's not as tacky as the clear TPU cases. When it comes to the Thin Fit, if you just need a grippy shell that you can mount magnetically to your car, you get a Thin Fit. It's a no-nonsense polycarbonate cover that won't offer your iPhone X or 8 much protection, but if you're careful with the device, the Thin Fit might be all you need. Now, if you need something a little flashier but don't want the bulk of a casemate case, consider going with a Liquid Crystal line. I personally don't like having patterns and designs on my iPhones, but if you do, some of the fancier liquid crystals will cover your iPhone. It will protect your iPhone from, you know, tiny drops, I'll say, and add a bit of personality. The standout feature of the clear liquid crystals is the handling and the slimness of the product. The texture of the case will keep your iPhone from sliding around on flat surfaces, which is nice. But out of all the liquid crystals, I personally would stay away from the matte black ones because it handles worse than a wet bar soap, which is kind of hard for me to believe. So again, if you found this video useful, consider getting your stuff through my links, as it helps me buy more fancy little ties for Monty. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down there. If you think I'm missing something or there's a case you want me to compare a Spigen case to, let me know and I'll see what I can do about it. If for the first time you're watching my videos, do subscribe. I produce content 2 to 3 times a week. That's kind of all I got, right buddy? We're done. A lot of filming today.